So we were talking about what Democrats needed to do, and President Obama had a blunt message for Democrats at a private fundraiser in New Jersey over the weekend. Toughen up, he says. Democrats need to speak out more forcefully against you-know-who, that they should stop looking for a messiah, and it's going to require less navel-gazing and a little less whining. Now, billionaire Mark Cuban also took aim at political messaging on the left. Take a look.
We picked the wrong pressure points. It's just Trump sucks. That's the underlying, thought of everything the Democrats do. Trump sucks. Trump says, the sky is blue. Trump sucks. You can't, that's not the way to win. It's just not, because it's not about Trump. It's about the people of the United States of America and what's good for them. And how do you get them to a place where they're in a better position?
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so let me remind everybody who was out in the front lines marching when we had the giant marches that went on. It was the people. The people went out. They were not navel-gazing. It was older people who were saying, why are you touching my Social Security? It was not people whining. It was about people saying, why are you taking these rights from my child when my child was born here? This has not been about Democrats laying back. This has been about y'all. This has been about y'all because their messaging was always the same. Democrats have been angry at what this man tried to do the last time. They've been angry this time. So with much due respect to you both, I believe you are pointing the finger at the wrong person when you say Democrats.
Are you delineating between voters and elected officials?
Yes, I am.
You're saying that, because I agree, voters are very impassioned.
Voters, and when you say Democrats, he's talking to us saying our messaging is bad. And I'm saying, no, our messaging has not been bad because people have been out. Well, people have been cranky.
I agree with you. I was in one of those protests. And I saw little children. I saw older people. I saw people in wheelchairs. I saw all sorts of people gathering together and protesting, despite the fact that we are living in a country where there is retribution. There is retribution if you post. There is retribution. There's, there's a lot of fear. And I do think that there are things that are working. I agree with Obama that people can't wait for a messiah, and people aren't waiting for a messiah. People are taking it on their, on their own. Listen, right now, Trump's handling on immigration has gone dramatically down. He's down 7 points in the Fox poll, 8 points in Ipsos, 16 points in Quinnipiac, 27 points in Gallup. Why is that? Because he's trying to tell the American people that he's putting psychopaths and gang leaders and hardened criminals in jail. And because the American people have taken it upon themselves to amplify the truth, to show up and protest these horrible, inhumane raids, to tell the truth about what their relatives are going through. Because we have seen the story of the 9-year-old U.S. citizens selling tamales in the streets of L.A. because they are stepping in for their street vendor parents who are too afraid to leave their homes, because we have heard the story of the U.S. citizen children with cancer who are not getting treatment because they've had to leave with their deported parents. Because the American people are doing their part, amplifying, showing up at protests, donating, organizing, and being vigilant as to what's happening. And so some of us say that Donald Trump sucks. He does suck, and it feels good to say it.
Well, I would say that I believe in what both of these men are saying in regard to elected Democrats. So I took the message very differently. The American people and Democrats marching to the streets are doing what they have the power to do between elections. I get that. But I would argue that right now, Anna, you just pointed out how much Trump is losing his popularity. He was voted in on immigration. He's now losing it. It would be a ripe time for some elected Democrat to come forward with the secondary plan that isn't just march against ICE agents in sanctuary cities. People want common sense solutions, and no Democrat is coming out and saying, this is a decades-old log problem. It crosses all administrations, but here's what I'm proposing. I've heard none of that. And that's what I would encourage people in the Democratic Party to do, because midterms come up in another year and a half.
Let's make sure we're talking about the elected officials.
Yeah, I just
want
want
to make
elected
that.
officials,
Yeah,
elected
I just
officials,
want to
and
make
I
sure.
think I have heard sort of a change in Democratic elected officials, or at least people that are running. I mean, when you look at Zohran Mamdani here in New York, I think he gave Democrats the blueprint on how to run and how to address those kitchen table issues that people keep on talking about. He ran on affordability in New York City. You can't live in New York affordably. People are out on the streets. People have full-time jobs, can't buy a home. That's what he ran on. That's what he won on. And so I think that we are seeing sort of a shift in the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party has always been for the working people, and maybe that didn't get through, but it certainly is getting through now because they see that the Republican Party is not for the working person. It's not for the middle class. It's for the billionaire class, of which there are what, a couple hundred in the entire country?
No, there's 800 some billionaires.
A couple of hundred, yeah, 800.
I want to see solutions. I feel like politicians on both sides are just want to debate the status quo, and we basically are, it feels like every election we're running on the same things. I want people to come up with new and big ideas to tackle the future. Yeah. That's where I get nervous, but I will say this on Mamdani. He ran the right message, the cost of living. His solutions are not right, and they will drag Democrats down. If having government-run grocery stores that mandate prices is the answer, if you think capping rents and making people so it's just going to raise the cost of living in New York, it's not going to actually lower them, that's what's going to hurt Democrats in the midterms if they are literally tagged to somebody who's openly running as a socialist. Just put out a smart immigration plan that creates a path for citizenship. Talk about how you're going to lower costs without going full-blown socialism. That's how you win the midterms.
Well, I also want to point something else out that maybe people don't realize are happening. You know, with all the floods that are happening in Texas, we generally give money to different agencies, and agencies are finding that they're not getting the money because people are blaming the people who died in the floods. And they're saying, well, why should I give you, you voted for this. Let me tell you, let's be really clear.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's unbelievable, but it's happening. And so I just want to be really clear. You know, you can't blame anybody for these floods. It's nobody's fault. I didn't do it, you didn't do it. It has nothing to do with Washington. This was what happened. This was a natural disaster. Yeah. And if you are writing on people's socials where you should be giving, if you're saying these kinds of things, damn you. Damn you. People are trying to get their lives together. These floods are no joke. This is not light humor. This is not how we do in America. We show up for whoever is in trouble. We don't say, who did you vote for? We don't say, who did you vote with? We show up. We show up for children. We show up for older folks. We show up for middle-aged folks. And we show up for the young. Because that's what we do as Americans when we find that horrible things are happening in the world. Stop sending those messages.